Good evening and welcome to the Watchman's Report. I'm Cody Higley, and tonight we're joined by a very special guest, community activist, real estate investor, all around great gal, Naomi Craig. Naomi, welcome.
Hi, Cody. Hi, Jason. Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate them.
And tonight we've kind of got a solemn, a serious topic to discuss, and it involves Naomi and her mother, Catherine Louise Conley, who was tragically murdered back in June of 1979. Her murder went cold and remained a cold case until just recently when a detective from the Morrow County Sheriff's Department, Detective Newsom, found a letter in the case file, which was in the custody of the Marion Police Department. The letter turned out to be written by the suspect, who was subsequently indicted by a grand jury in Morrow County for the murder of Catherine Conley. So we'll find out a little bit more about what was in that letter and what the circumstances surrounding that were. But before we hear from Naomi, I took the liberty of doing some research, quite a bit of research, and compiling an article. And this was all from contemporary sources that discussed this case back in 1979, 1980. So, Jason, if you would, please bring that up. So we'll go over that first. That'll set the stage for the documented historical evidence. So this is on the Marion Watch page. You can also find it on Operation Marion Watchman's Facebook page. But I'm going to go ahead and read it, so follow along. Here you can see a picture. This was actually the picture that was published in the Marion Star when Catherine went missing. And it's kind of a grainy, pixelated image, black and white. And then to the left is a contemporary photo of the suspect, who again has been indicted by the grand jury in Morrow County 46 years later, Dana Slane. Now, Dana Slane is deceased, passed away in 2019. So the most that you're going to get is a grand jury indictment. Even if you have a confession and you have a huge case, that's the most that you're going to get, because you cannot try and convict by a jury of peers somebody who has passed away. So go ahead and scroll down, Jason. We'll get started. Or I think scroll up was the first line. So on the 1st of June, 1979, 17-year-old Catherine Louise Conley went missing. Around 8:45 p.m. that evening, the resident of 217 Windsor Street departed her family home and walked to the Kroger grocery store formerly located on South Main Street near the intersection with Columbia Street in order to purchase formula for her 6-month-old baby girl, Naomi. She never returned home. On the 3rd of June, her family filed a missing persons report, and I think they filed it immediately, right, Naomi?
The police department made them wait 48 hours before they would accept a missing persons report. So they filed it as soon as they could. They reported her missing that night.
Okay. That's a good clarification. With the Marion Police Department, the Marion Star subsequently published the notice of her disappearance on June 14th. So that's when the notice went out in the Marion Star.
11 days later.
11 days later. The morning after the Star article went out, around 9 a.m., Catherine's partially decomposed body was found by Eric Anthony in a hedgerow between two of his family's fields, 15 miles away in Morrow County, near the intersections of County Road 9 and County Road 131, about a mile north of the village of Edison. The body of the young woman, unidentified at first, was sent to the Hamilton County Morgue in Cincinnati for an autopsy, where she was later identified based on Catherine Conley's dental records, which were supplied by the Marion Police Department. The cause of death was determined to be severe blunt force trauma to the head. Once her body was identified, the Morrow County Sheriff's Department, Marion Police Department, and the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation examined the scene of the crime and began searching for both witnesses and potential suspects. Marion police interviewed witnesses, including employees at the Kroger store on South Main Street. However, according to the coverage in the Marion Star, nobody claimed to have seen anything. Over in Morrow County, a witness reported seeing a strange vehicle with a single occupant leaving the scene of the crime that night. Back then, that location had a reputation of being a parking spot for teens and others, so it wasn't out of the ordinary to see couples back there. However, it was strange, according to the witness, to see a solitary person back there, so the witness recorded the vehicle's license plate number on a piece of paper. Unfortunately for investigators and Catherine's family, that witness somehow misplaced the piece of paper with the license plate number and could not provide a description of the vehicle or any further information that was of use. Later that week, Catherine Conley's family buried her earthly remains in the Chapel Heights Memory Garden Cemetery, located about 3 miles north of Marion. Left to mourn her loss and carry the unanswered emotional scars were her daughter, Naomi Craig, her mother, Margaret Conley, her grandmother, Maud Hackworth, her brother, Shannon, Shannon Hackworth, and her two sisters, Twyla and Heidi. Although the newspapers at the time didn't publish it, law enforcement did in fact question the man that we now know murdered Catherine Conley. Well, he's been indicted
He did it. But anyway,
for it. 19-year-old Dana Slane, a then resident of 749 Wilson Avenue in Marion. Dana Slane, the son of Paul W., he went by Billy Slane, a then resident of Edison, Ohio, and Stella Slane of Marion was a regular visitor to the Marion City parking lot, which was located at the corner of South Prospect Street and West Church Street, back when that was a popular hangout for Marion's youth. Prior to his violent murder of Catherine Conley, according to the indictment, Slane had been arrested for disorderly conduct, but for the most part, his criminal record wasn't much of note at that time. However, 2 months after he allegedly murdered Catherine, he was arrested by Marion police and charged with 2 counts of gross sexual imposition for an occurrence on the 19th of August, 1979. According to the arrest notice, Slane picked up a 20-year-old woman and a 17-year-old girl at the Marion City parking lot and drove off with them. One of the victims somehow alerted law enforcement, and he was pulled over on Cardington Road. Remember, this was only 2 months after Dana Slane had allegedly murdered Catherine Conley under similar circumstances. Had he not been pulled over, who knows what would have happened. The following year, Slane was arrested some 7 times for disorderly conduct, public intoxication, and obstructing official business. In June of 1980, Catherine's family held a protest in front of Marion City Hall to draw attention to law enforcement's failure to find her murderer. All the while, the investigation of Catherine's murder got colder and colder. Okay, Jason, pull up that picture of Catherine and Naomi. So Naomi, your mother was murdered when you were 5 months, right?
Yes.
So this is a photo. Do you know about how old were you?
I was about 3 or 4 months. I think this picture was taken around April of 79.
Okay. You're a very cute little kid.
Well, turned into a beautiful woman. So what do you
Yeah,
expect?
that's right. You look a lot like her.
And
I know
humble. Humble.
I've I know you've heard that a lot, but
I hear it
um
regularly.
yeah, no, it's very, very, very strong. Um Now let's pick up there. So we're 1980. Family is trying to get attention from law enforcement to actually do something. So take us from 1980 up until present time, and let's just go through it all.
Oh gosh. To go through it all, I guess it would just be decades of denying, and there's no evidence, and this is never going to be solved until someone comes forward. And we've done this and we've tried that. And I mean, there's even an editorial. I think it was you that sent it to me. It might have been someone else in the Marion Star where someone had written in after my family protested and said, justice isn't swift. And I sit back and look at that article now and I thought, oh, you hit the nail on the head there. It only took 4.5 decades for us to get it. From, I guess, I don't know, I guess to start with the recent happenings, because things sort of jump around and like, I mean, they had taken my DNA in 1998 or 99, but that doesn't really necessarily fit in the story right now, because I found out really what it was taken and used for here recently. So I guess I should just kind of start with the beginning of what's happened. And if you guys have any questions, I can fill in the blanks, because you did a good job of what led up to that. I mean, as much as I do. You actually may even.
Let's share a couple of the other images here just to kind of set the stage. We've got a map, kind of point out for those of you who may not be familiar with the stated street addresses. That Kroger's location is no
Right.
longer there.
So if you have those, I can explain where they were. My mother went missing from 217 Windsor, and that's right down in the Salvation Army area. If you're familiar
Yeah,
with Church
here's
Street.
the map that I made up. So if you look here, you've got where Catherine resided, so the 217 Windsor Street, and then she was walking, presumably south on Windsor, probably to Columbia Street,
Mm-hmm.
over to the Kroger that was located at 302 South Main Street. Now I measured that out. That's a distance of a half a mile. So
I
she had a
used
half
to
a mile.
walk it with my grandma when I was a kid all the time. We went over there. It went from Kroger to Cash and Carry, so that was a regular trip for the family.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, we're not talking a very
Mm-mm.
long distance. It would have been something that she was quite accustomed to
Mm.
doing, I imagine, on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
as we stated, she was leaving to purchase formula for you. So you would think that it would have been a matter of, I'm just going to go to the grocery store, I'm going to get the formula, and then I'm going to come back home. You wouldn't think that there would be any type of detour whatsoever. So then you've got over there on the right side of that map, you see 749 Wilson Avenue. That's where the Slane residence was. And again, at the time, his mother and I believe his grandmother possibly were living in that residence. And then his father, Paul William, went by Billy Slane, was kind of estranged from his wife and living over in Edison. So let's go ahead and pull up the images of the residences, Jason.
Which one would you like to start with, sir?
You can show the Conley house first. So this is a picture of 217 Windsor Street. So this is where Catherine was living at the time in 1979. And then go ahead and show the picture of the slain residence. Do you remember that house, Naomi?
Windsor Street?
Yeah.
Yeah, my grandma lived there until 2012.
Okay. So you continued to grow up there.
Yes, I spent nearly every weekend there.
Okay. So here's 749 Wilson Avenue. So this was the slain residence. Now let's show the map of where the abduction and then where the body was found. So you can see they're pinpointed on the left side of the screen. That's where the abduction occurred. And it was at, as we said, the Kroger parking lot. And we're going to go a little bit more in depth with some new information that was recently discovered with the
You keep saying the
review.
new Kroger parking lot. I just want people to realize that's where the Rite Aid is now, and
Yeah, where the right,
where the new
right.
fire department's going in. So my mother was actually kidnapped from the parking lot where the new fire department is going in.
Yeah, yeah. And then if you track out about 15 miles to the east, in a remote location, approximately a mile north of the village of Edison. So if you zoom in at all on that part over there where it says Edison? So you can see toward the lower right portion of the screen, you can see the village of Edison. And that's where her body was found back in, I think it was discovered on what, the 15th of June,
Yes.
1979.
Mm-hmm.
And she was nude except for shoes and socks, and then she had a locket, correct? Or
She just had she had shoes, and then she had because she was wearing sandals, and she had on still had her silver crucifix.
Now, again, you had Billy Slane, who was living at the time in Edison. So this would have been very close.
I was told by Monroe County Sheriff that less than a year prior to my mother being found, that he lived 9/10 of a mile from there, and that the area was so remote. They said it's still very remote right now, but they said it was, 45 years ago, it was even more so, that unless you knew about the road, you weren't going to be going down the road. Like, it wouldn't be a regularly traveled road. I mean, it has the reputation of a lover's lane, but it wouldn't be like, if I were driving through Edison, I wouldn't know where it was. You would have to live around there to know how to get there, know about it.
Yeah. No, that's 131 is still a gravel road today. So County Road 9 is.
I've never been down there. I don't have the desire to go down that road.
Yeah. County Road 9 is a fairly heavily trafficked road. But 131.
But was it 45 years ago?
I mean, yeah, probably a lot less than it is today. Now,
I was also told that it's kind of a good, it would have been a good back way to get to whatever campground that is that they all go over there and party at over there nearby. And that area would have been a good way.
Probably referring to Hidden Lakes.
Okay, I think that is what they said. And they said it would have been like a good way to duck out around the back way of Marion and get over there, like, not be detected by the cops if you were drinking or doing whatever, the back roads, so you don't get busted.
Yeah. Now, the detective who kind of looked into this, found this letter that we referred to earlier, is Detective Newsom of the Moore County Sheriff's Department.
Yes.
He shared with you, as her only child, the only member of Catherine's family that's still alive today, correct?
Correct. I have some cousins, but yes.
And he shared with you a good amount of information that was in that case file. And one of those was a witness statement from the Kroger parking lot. So do you want to share what that witness said?
Yes, and this is actually the first time that I had heard this, and I know that if my family had heard this, I would have heard this, just because it's such a bombshell, and it's something that they would have not have let go. So she went missing on the 1st. That Marion Star didn't run their story until the 14th, and on the 15th, a woman called in, and that was the day that her body was found. A woman called in and said, now what I was told, I'm pretty sure, because like that day, like I swear my soul left my body like 7 times. But I'm sure that they said there was a different picture used that day that the woman said that she had not seen. And when she did, she realized that she had likely witnessed my mother's kidnapping. It was the 1st of the month. That's why she was, sure of the date. She noticed a couple arguing in the parking lot. She just thought it was a lover's spat. And she saw the guy grab the woman and smack her and throw her in a van. And, it was 1979, and domestic violence sadly wasn't a reported thing, and women were still stored property. So she didn't think anything about it. She didn't bother calling the police or anything. But when she saw my mother's picture, she realized that, yeah, she did see this woman be kidnapped, and gave a general description then of Dana Slane, of a van that was similar to what Dana Slane owned at the time. So at that point, we had a dead body. And then we have a call from someone who witnessed her kidnapping. So whereas, the police had told you asked about the report, and they wouldn't take it until she'd been gone for 2 days, because, even when my grandmothers were calling after the 48 hours, they were telling her she's a party girl. She went out. She's just having a good time. So when she gets home, when she sobers up, this all whatever. And then, the days turned into weeks, and then the weeks turned into a dead body. And I don't think that much was done in that 14 or 15 days, because there isn't a lot leading up to that point. And they didn't even run anything in the Marion Star until she'd been gone for 2 weeks. So
I know that you didn't find out even that Catherine was your mother until you were how old?
I was probably 11-ish.
And that just kind of happened by chance, as
Yes.
I understand it.
Obviously somebody had to end up with me once my mother was gone. My biological family and my grandmothers and my other aunt and the aunt that ended up raising me, and just there's basically a civil war for custody over who would get me. And my aunt with the most money was the one that was able to win the court battle. And part of being able to see me was keeping it quiet that she was my mother. And they also decided to not let me have anything to do with my father's family. So I never even knew that those people existed until I was older and found out that she was my mother. I am in contact with one cousin on that side of the family, but yeah, two families were robbed. Dozens of lives were destroyed that night. Dozens.
So did your family share the story with you? Even if it was Catherine is your aunt, and I think
So
is that
I was always told that she was my aunt. Um, and then when I was cleaning out the closet, just helping my grandma clean out a closet at her house once, and I found one of those obituary, the bookmarks that they used to make in the 70s and 80s were really popular. You'd have the newspaper clipping put on there, and then it would be like the Lord's Prayer or the 23rd Psalm and laminated. And he kept them in the family Bible, that sort of thing. Well, this one was buried in the closet, and I happened to come across it, and I read it, and it said that she left behind her infant daughter Naomi. Well, there's no cousins named Naomi. I'm the only one named Naomi. And I went and asked my grandma, and my grandma just broke down and told me the truth, and told me that she had been sworn to silence, and that she needed me not to tell either, because there would be a good chance that we wouldn't be able to see each other anymore. So I just kept it quiet for a couple more years. And then one day I felt compelled to tell my other aunt. And then she told the rest of the family that I knew. So I think I was probably 13 or so when my entire family knew that I knew.
was that accepted then by the aunt that adopted you? Was she didn't try to keep you away from the family at that point, did she? Or did she?
No, no.
Okay.
At that point, I would have just walked to my grandma's house. I wouldn't have cared.
Yeah. So, okay, what did they share with you about Catherine's disappearance and murder in those early years? So, did they talk about it at all, or was it just, oh, Catherine was your aunt and she died?
Well, I always knew that she was murdered.
They
That
did
was always
she
known.
was murdered. Okay.
Yeah, even when she was just my aunt, I had always known that she was murdered. I didn't know, obviously, when I was little how, because you don't get into the specifics of murder with children. But then as I got older, probably mid-teens, things were explained to me, because the internet didn't exist back then, so you couldn't look things up on your own. It was just what you were told. And I mean, there weren't a lot of details to give because my family wasn't given a lot of details.
Mhm.
So most of what I know now, I found out now. We knew that she went missing somewhere between Windsor Street and Kroger. We never knew where. We didn't know anything about the woman that called in and talked about the kidnapping. And trust me when I tell you these things, my family clung to every snippet of information that they could get and molded over, twisted it, and thought, how could we, what could this possibly be? So if a witness to her kidnapping was known, I would know about it. So they never even told my family that they knew for sure she was kidnapped. It wasn't until her body was found that the word kidnapped was even used. And even then, there was maybe she went with this person willingly to go party with him and things went south. Okay, even if she went with him willingly, I don't think she willingly was raped and murdered.
Right. Now, did they tried to or they reported her missing, and they wouldn't accept a missing persons report for 48 hours
Right.
after Catherine's disappearance. Did they then go there every day and pressure them, follow up with them? Did the Marion Police Department or the Moore County Sheriff's, stay in touch during that period of time? Or do you have any insight into how that period of time went?
Like when she was missing?
Yeah.
I know my family was frantic. I remember I had an aunt that was very close to my mother. They were just a couple of years apart, and they were like best friends. And now, like the mom that adopted me, she was the oldest of all of them. So there was years that separated them. So like my mom and my Aunt Heidi were best friends. And my Aunt Heidi is the one that drank herself to death over this because her and my mom were basically best friends. And she would tell me stuff when she would get drunk. And one of the things is just basically how my grandmothers would call, or they would sit by the phone and wait, or they would walk up to City Hall because they were so close, and how the desperation of wanting help and just being ignored before they found her. Because again, they just assumed she was out tying on a good one and would eventually show back up.
Did they talk about that day when they found out on the 15th of June? Did they go into that much kind of detail at any point in your life, or
No? I'm pretty sure I heard the story once, and I'm pretty sure that Marion Police Department came to the house, and it was just kind of basically they knew when they were standing on the porch uninvited what had happened. And my grandma screamed, and that's just really kind of all I know about it. It's just a really bad time. And then I don't know, I've always thought it was weird, but pictures from her funeral, and it was just everybody just devastated. You can tell. And they had been for weeks. So when you look at these pictures, you can just tell everybody is just done, like mentally, physically, emotionally, like it's all they can do to be there.
Now, what type of conversations have you had with your mom's like close friends that knew her well back in the day? I mean, are any of those individuals still alive? Are you in communication with them? Have they provided any valuable insight that has been helpful to you or provided comfort to you?
Remember, I wasn't allowed around anybody that knew my mom because they might have told me that she was my mom. But my mom had a friend named Lorna, and I went to school with her daughter. And Lorna was always nice to me, and I was always told that I wasn't allowed to be friends with her daughter, and that she knew my mom, and that, well, I knew then that she was my mom. That she knew my mom. I mean, and everybody that they didn't want me to be around might have had something to do with her disappearance. Like my dad might have had something to do with her disappearance, or Lorna might have had something to do with her disappearance, or Lorna's husband might have had something to do with her disappearance, or just anybody that they didn't want me to be around, they might have had something to do with her disappearance. And, that was enough to convince me. But I talked to my mom's, we've been Facebook friends for a long time. And I talked to her after this happened because she deserved to know. She was my mom's best friend. She told me this, that they had questioned, I knew they had questioned her because my grandmas and everybody told me that, but Lorna told me they questioned her. And actually at one point not at one point, when my mother was found, they wanted her to identify her dead body. Another 17-year-old to identify her best friend's dead body, decomposed dead body that had been eaten on by animals. And Lorna told them no, she didn't want to do that, which I don't blame her. She's like, I don't want that to be the last memory that I have of my best friend. And they showed her pictures of her sandals, and Lorna was able to identify those, and her crucifix, and Lorna knew that was hers. And the city police had parents convinced, don't let your kids out of the house. This is coming from Lorna. Don't let your kids go up to the city parking lot. there's some crazy guy that's out taking girls and all kinds of stuff. I mean, Lorna ran away because she was afraid that someone was going to try to kidnap and murder her because, I mean, it was hysteria. And like people were just in fear because there weren't any answers coming from anyone. So you had the whole city living in fear as well because this woman went missing and showed up in another county murdered. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
Lorna heard nothing like rumors on the street.
No, when I told her the name Dana Slane, she was very surprised. She knew who he was, but she's like, we never hung out. And Lorna told me that but they knew who he was because like they all hung out at city parking lot. Well, everybody did. And it'd be like, going to the roller skating rink every weekend. Like, we don't know each other, but I know you're there every weekend. What's up, Cody? That sort of thing. But Lorna was really surprised when I said the name Dana Slane, but she told me that she told the police always that it was someone that my mother knew or was acquainted with. And the police always wanted to swear no, it was somebody that she went off to, some stranger that she met up with and went to go party with. That's what the police always perpetuated to Lorna. And Lorna always told her, no, it had to have been somebody she knew because she wouldn't do this. She wouldn't get in a vehicle with somebody she didn't know. And even if she did, Naomi was at home waiting on food. So like, even if she did want to go out and party or hang out with her friends, my grandmas would have been cool with it. They just would have needed to bring food back home. So Lorna was like, even if she was going to go hang out, then she would have made sure her daughter was fed. And it wouldn't have been a big deal. Like she wouldn't have had to just hop in a car and left. My grandmas would have been like, okay, go with your friends. We'll watch the baby. So.
Right. Now, I think it's also important. Your mother didn't have a record or anything.
No.
So we're not talking about, somebody who,
No, she was a good student.
Criminal element or.
No, she was a good student, and I know she had me young, but and I'm not making excuses for that, but her and my father were involved. He was a few years older than her. And it was just teenage love, you get mad at each other, you break up, I'm going to go stay with my mom, and I'm going to do this, but I mean, from what I know, they loved each other. They were just young and dumb. So like, that was her boyfriend, my dad was her man, and she was a good student. She just had a baby young and came from a poor family.
So were they still an item at the time of her?
Sort of. That was a sort of time, yes.
And what sort of relationship did you have with your father?
As far as I know, they saw me on the weekends. Because there are some pictures. My cousin that I'm in contact with sent me a picture of my dad and holding me, and then I think there's another one of my grandmother on that side holding me.
Now, is he still alive? Did he pass away?
I think he's still alive.
But you didn't have any relationship with him in recent years, or you haven't spoken to him about this issue?
No. I saw him. Strangely enough, I grew up right down the street from where he lived. I grew up on Henry Street, the 900 block down towards Lawson's, and he lived in a house on the corner of Woodrow and Henry. So, I mean, he's literally right up the street from me. I went to school with my aunts. He had a couple of sisters that were way younger than him, and I went to school with them, and I didn't even know they were my aunts. But I stopped once and talked to him, and I was probably early 20s, because I saw him outside, and I just went up to him, and I was like, "Are you Phil?" And he's like, "Yeah." I said, "Do you know who I am?" And he said, "No." And I said, "I'm your daughter, Naomi." he just kind of looked at me. I imagine that was pretty shocking. But he didn't have much to say after that. And I figured, like once I turned 18, he had the option of getting a hold of me. All these years he could have gotten a hold of me, and he hasn't. So, I mean, that I wish I knew him, but it doesn't hurt. I mean, he's a stranger. You know how I am. Like, I don't care. I mean, I do, but I don't. That doesn't affect my life. Let's put it that way.
Did your grandmother or your aunts reach out to him at the time? Do you know? Did they say, hey, do you have any information?
No, I mean, they blamed him.
They blamed him?
Oh, yeah. They blamed him. They blamed my uncles. They blamed Lorna's husband. I think it was just her boyfriend at the time. They blamed you. I mean, if it was a man anywhere near the family, they blamed him.
So because of that accusatory nature, they probably didn't have any type of substantive conversation with him then.
No, not that I would know of. No. I think my grandmother's continued to let me see him after my mother passed, but once it turned into custody war, I don't believe that I was allowed to see them after that.
So after the protest in 1980, did they continue to follow up regularly? Did your family continue to follow up regularly with both the Marion Police Department and the Moore County Sheriff's Department? Or was it every so often, like every so many years? Like, what was that situation like?
I know my great grandmother and grandmother were vigilant for years, probably weekly for a long time, and then monthly for a long time. And it would have been Marion and Morrow. And there was a detective actually over in Morrow County. Her name was
Pull her
Shirley.
up, Jason. Pull her up. Pull up Detective Shirley Murphy. And sorry, Naomi, I just want
to no, if you've got a picture.
Share the image, because that's
she
the nice
helped my
thing.
family tremendously over the year for what help we were given. For years and years, she called my family on my mother's birthday, or just kind of out of the blue, and would let my family, that's the Morrow County detective there, and let my family know that she hadn't forgotten about him, and that she was still thinking about this case, and that she was always looking for answers, and that she never gave up. And even when I went to talk to the detectives the day of the indictment, well, I think both times, her name was mentioned, and one of the lieutenant, the detective, I believe his last name is Chalfant, and he said that my mother's murder, and then there was another one at the laundromat over there in Mount Gilead, I think, that those haunted her until her death, and that he was even asking him as late as 2007, or like right up to her passing. He said he saw her at the grocery store once, and she asked him specifically, have you ever found anything out about the Conley case? And she was always good to my family and always responded. And then once she retired, the lifeline dried up.
Yeah, I've heard similar statements about Detective Murphy, and quite a life story when you think about it. She was born in 1936, passed away in 2007.
Yeah, to have been a detective in that era as a woman,
to be a female detective,
yeah,
and to go from, she was like a secretary, then dispatch, then patrol,
worked her way up through the ranks.
Yeah,
sure.
That's a really cool story.
And to have done that in the 70s, because I mean, you're talking about 79, she had made it to detective. So to do all that work in the 70s and work your way up the ranks, that was really,
to be a patrol officer in the 60s or the late 50s, that's pretty cool.
And she really cared. She legitimately cared, because I never met the woman, but I know her name. and I know her name because she cared about my family.
Yeah. No, that's, I think, one of the only positive, things that you hear when you're talking about this whole situation is, I think,
Shirley
Detective,
Murphy.
yeah, Shirley Murphy.
Mhm.
Now, let's go over the cast of characters or finish it. So pull up Sheriff Hardin was, I think, elected that year. So, or maybe in 78. Long time, Moore County sheriff, I think 24 years in total. But I think he started in 78. So that brings us to the issue of collaboration or a
Or
lack
lack thereof.
thereof between the Moore County Sheriff's Department. So they had jurisdiction basically over the investigation of the murder or the body, since it was dumped,
Right.
because body was dumped in Morrow County. And then, as I understand it, Marion County. Now, did they investigate the murder as well, or was their focus of their
Who the hell
investigation?
knows what anybody investigated at this point? Marion was supposed to have been investigating the kidnapping, but I can't help but think that they should have just all been working in collaboration together, but it doesn't seem like that's what was going on. Like, I don't understand why there wasn't just one investigation, why two different counties were looking at this. And I mean, I get that it was 1979. But yes, Marion was supposed to be looking at the kidnapping and Morrow was supposed to be looking at the murder.
Now, Jason, pull up on the Marion side of law enforcement at the time. Which, just to break the news before Jason finds the photo, the chief of police was a man by the name of Robert Exley. So Exley served as chief of police from 1974 to 1984. So he actually took over after the
The guy
former
shot
chief,
himself. Is that the
John Long, shot himself in the head and committed suicide at his office in City Hall there on Delaware Avenue, amidst accusation of misconduct, improprieties. More on that story coming. So Exley was the chief there from during the 1979 case of Catherine Conley, and then also up until this letter that we're going to be discussing more in detail coming up, that was uh, written in December of 1982. So after Exley, you had Ed Whipple. So Whipple was in there from 84 to 89. And you had Frank Arnold in there from 89 to 99. And then Chief Tom Bell from 99 to 2014. Bill Collins, 2014 to 2020.
You got the
And
mugshot of Collins.
that's actually a Columbus Dispatch
Okay.
photo from an article.
Okay.
And then Jay McDonald, the current chief of police, 2020 to present.
You can't tell me it doesn't look like a mugshot. Okay. We've got to have a little bit of humor in this night. All
Yeah,
right.
you gotta have some levity.
It's
Man, we
yes.
always say that. Levity,
Yes.
levity. All right. So your family's following up periodically, trying to get action. They've already protested the year after her murder. Nothing's going.
They
They're
wrote
just
letters to
getting,
the editor after that too, I think. I think you
and they did. Yeah, I found that letter to the
yeah.
editor. So
They
not
did
getting,
what they could to keep it public back then. They
yeah,
tried.
right. And what you could do.
Mm-hmm.
And so then who reached out and said, hey, we want to take another look at this? Was this the Bureau of Criminal Investigations? And did that inquiry get submitted only to Morrow County, or was it also Marion County, to your knowledge?
You mean right now? This time?
No, like when they wanted to look at your DNA. Was that
Okay. So it was 98 or 99, and it was Mario County that reached out to me. I lived in Rhode Island at the time, and it was all just very surreal because DNA was pretty new back then. And I had to go get like a Polaroid camera and all this other stuff, and then had to have the doctor take a picture of him drawing my blood for chain of custody. And I mean, it was wild. But we were told that there had been a new development in the case and that there was new technology. Obviously, DNA was pretty fresh, but they wanted to do mitochondrial DNA, which was even newer. And they were going to reconstruct her DNA through my DNA. And so we did all the, chain of custody and get my blood to Columbus and all this stuff, and nothing. The evidence was too degraded. The evidence was destroyed. This, that, and the other. Okay, so at one point there was DNA evidence, but that in 99 led to another road to nowhere. So what I found out recently, because I was like, okay, so why did you guys bother taking my blood in 98 and 99? If it was this obvious, like why, like what happened with the DNA, and they're like, well, actually, there was someone that Mario County was getting ready to take to grand jury, and your blood exonerated them. So my DNA was actually used to exonerate someone when they told us that there was a new break in the case, and that they had, I suppose that they really did think that they had a suspect, and my blood was, it exonerated them. But we were never told that. We were just told that, no evidence, it was destroyed, degraded, probably wouldn't happen, and science wasn't what they thought it was. Not that, oh, well, we thought we had the guy, but we really didn't. And thankfully, your blood exonerated an innocent man because we were getting ready to take him to grand jury. So I just found that out. I found that out September 18th.
in the course of discussions with Detective Newsom?
Yes.
Okay, so
Because you want to know why the hell your blood was taken and where your DNA went. Well, it's in a database somewhere, as far as that, it's not like I'm worried about the government having my blood, but why did you guys take it? And it was to either indict or exonerate somebody, and come to find out it exonerated somebody.
So then we fast forward with very minimal. I think there was an article that was published in the Star, about that. That was like 98,
Yeah.
I think.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty much the end of the road as far as publication goes. At least the historical record.
There may have been one more, but I could be wrong about that. But there may have been one at like the 25-year mark or something, but I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, I don't know.
But there's very little newspaper coverage, and which is very strange about a murder and a kidnapping. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't back then because we were white trash, but I don't know. But there's very little coverage about it.
Indeed. And that's what makes the rest of the story so troubling, I think, is that Morrow County agrees to take a look into it. So this was largely, I think, at the behest of the new prosecutor, relatively new prosecutor, Andrew Wick.
It was Prosecutor Wick's office that wanted it looked at again.
Yeah. So
Hinton's office didn't want anything to do with it. And I'll make it abundantly clear that Hinton's office ignored me for as long as Hinton has been the sheriff. And I can document that. They couldn't even respond. And when my grandma died, I made a phone call. I didn't email because I wasn't into so much documenting everything back then. But when my grandma called, I got a detective, or I don't know, hell, it could have been the lady that answered the telephone for all I know. But I was told then that unless someone came forward or confessed, that the case would never be solved. And I mean, that person even spent about 15 minutes on the phone blowing smoke up my ass. So
What year was this?
my grandma died. Oh my goodness. 2012 or 2013. 2013. Grandma died.
So you
Well, Hinton
contacted
was the sheriff, right?
Brenneman, I think,
Okay.
at
I
that
thought
time.
Hinton had been around for about 12 or 15 years. But regardless, I've hit Hinton up while he was the sheriff too, because there was that situation that I've talked about before with Ian Gordon, the pervert that was having sex with the underage girls that worked at the jail. And I helped get him prosecuted. But I met a man from BCI in that process that told me he had worked cold cases actually at BCI and said he had never heard of my mother's. He had worked cold cases out of Marion County. And I said, that's because she was found in Morrow. And he said, oh, well, yeah, that was out of my region. So, but he told me then, Sheriff Hinton is a good man, get a hold of him, blah, blah, blah. And I did at that point in time. And I even told him what the man said. I gave him the man from BCI's name. I said, I think the guy's name is Jason. And I was like, Jason such and such said this about you. And he said, you were a good man and that you would. I wasn't even asking him to investigate it. I was asking him to send it to BCI because BCI guy told me, get a hold of me. I'll make sure that this gets looked at. No one would send it to BCI.
Yeah, it's just, I mean,
get rid of it. Just pass the buck at least to BCI.
yeah, it's crazy. So then Newsom goes over to Marion on another mission, and it just so happens to come across.
He had been asked to look at my mother's case.
But he was going there for like another file or something.
And
right?
he ran across my mother's case and was like, oh, I know I'm going to need that one too. However, this is the case file that Marion has told us for decades did not exist, that nothing existed in her case.
So nothing exists when it actually did.
Mm-hmm.
When Newsom reviews it, then he
He had a
finds
suspect within a week. He told me he had a suspect within a week. And that within 2 weeks, he was taking the suspect to his lieutenant. And the only reason it took so long for them to go to grand jury was because a lot of the witnesses were dead. Documents were old. There were things that they were looking for, like my mother's crucifix that they couldn't find. And they were trying to put everything together, all the pieces, because were scattered here and there. And they were trying to put everything together before they went to the grand jury.
well, I mean,
and I understand that. And I understand. And Newsom told me that they never told me any of this, that they were re-examining it because they didn't want to get my hopes up, which I appreciate that. I was completely flabbergasted when he called me, but I would have much rather gotten the call that, hey, we found someone than, hey, we're looking again. And then the road to nowhere again. Now, I think they wholeheartedly expected for him to look at it and be like, no, I'm not going to be able to solve anything unless someone confesses or another piece of evidence comes in. And then they could officially say, case closed. We tried. Too bad, so sad. I don't think they were expecting him to open it and find the killer within a week. And I'm not saying this to be disrespectful to Brandon Newsom because the dude is my hero, but they put the least senior detective on this case. I'm, like I said, fully expecting, I'm sure, for him not to solve it because it wasn't solvable. And crazy spin of events, Newsom, the last job he worked at before he went to the Morrow County Sheriff's Office, because he's been there for 9 years. He's been a detective for about a year. The last job he worked was at Whirlpool, and my husband was his team leader. Like, what are the odds?
wow.
Of that? Yeah.
What are the odds of that? A small world.
So when I walked in and first saw him, my husband Rob was with me, and they looked at each other, and he's like, "Hi, Rob." I'm like, what? And I mean, they were shocked to see each other at first, but yeah, the last job he had, he was working for my husband.
Wow. Well, it was a man for the job.
I suppose.
Yeah, and
Less than
you know,
less than a year on the job. That should tell you how convincing the evidence was that within a week he had a suspect.
well, right. So let's talk. I know there's numbers of critical evidence that came out of that, but the smoking gun, it sounds like, was this letter that was sent by Dana Slane.
I think we need to talk about the van. I think the van is important. That's
let's talk about the letter first.
Okay.
Because we've been building it up. Or you want let's do it the other way. We're going to build this letter up. So let's go through the other piece of evidence.
It's kind of like the icing on the cake. The letter is in the timeline.
So let's do the van. Let's do the cast, and the rest. So go ahead with the van.
My story, Cody. I'll tell it how I want.
That's right. You will.
So the van that the woman saw my mother being kidnapped into, it was general description, and asking around and whatever, the police found out that, and Dana was also known to the police. I mean, he was just kind of a little drunken rabble rouser. So the police knew who he was. That led them to this van that my mother was seen, a similar van that my mother was being seen kidnapped in. And through title information, they found out that Slane sold the van 11 days after my mother was murdered. And they found out, obviously, who he sold it to, and etc. And Marion City Police Department got the van back. And they processed the van. And when they processed it, of course, you can't just sell a murder scene. You've got to clean it up first. So when they processed it, it was like someone had done a very bad cleanup job on it. And I'm assuming black light or luminol or whatever it was that they did back in the 70s. And they found traces of blood on the passenger side window, the windshield, the seats, the floor, back seats, these little ugly ass curtains that they've got in 1970s vans. And because it had been cleaned up, they couldn't type it for like O or A or anything like that. But they were able to determine that it was human blood. So you've got Slane, who has this van full of human blood, and they obviously have a reason to get the van. And they got, I can't remember what they told me. I can't remember. Anyway, they got the van.
When they brought the van in and analyzed it, did they give you like a timeline on that?
They may have. That also might have been when my soul was leaving my body, but I'm pretty sure it was before the two women were taken a couple of months later. Well, he sold the van within 11 days of her going missing. He sold the van before they even found her. So
if it was before the women, that was 2 months later. That was what, September?
Yeah, it was like mid-August.
Yeah. So if they were on him that quickly.
And then he goes and tries to rape two women a couple months later. So I'm not exactly sure when that blood evidence came in, but Marion City did have it. They sent it off to BCI, and BCI actually was the one that did the research on that. So it was Marion that knew that. Now, Morrow County didn't know that, or they're saying they didn't know that. My family didn't know that because, trust me, there'd probably been a lynch mob after Dana Slane if we'd known that he'd had a van that was covered in human blood. Like I said, I'd never heard the name Dana Slane until that day. But, okay, so Dana, we'll back up a minute. So we've got the kidnap witness. We've got the van. And, okay, so back up to May 25th.
Can I ask you a question about the van?
Yeah. Did
they impound that like as evidence, or did they just borrow it from the person that he sold it to do their luminol testing, blacklight testing, and then say, well, here you go. Did they indicate whether or not they held on to that for additional investigation?
No, they didn't, but I'm pretty sure they told me they got a warrant for it. So I'm assuming that they kept it, but who knows? Because
Yeah.
they didn't even bother telling Mario County about the bloody van. So I don't know. I don't know if they kept it. I mean, when you hear about the letter, when people hear about the letter, they'll be like,
Yeah.
oh, you know, I mean,
Right.
hell, he
Right.
could have stabbed her and they would have given the knife back the way it seems at this point.
Yeah.
So to go back to May 25th, Dana Slane had gotten out of the hospital. He'd had surgery on his ankle and had pins and had a cast. And I know everyone keeps saying that he lived on Wilson Avenue, and he very may well have lived on Wilson Avenue, but what the Monroe County Sheriff told me was that he was staying with Grandma. So I don't know if Grandma was nursing him back to health. I don't know if the people at Wilson Avenue were pissed off at him, but the sheriff told me that he was staying on Boston Road with his grandmother. Ironically, that's must have been the family home because that was the address where they indicted him. But the cast. So May 25th, he gets out of the hospital. My mother goes missing June 1st, and that was a Friday. Monday, he had called Dr. Ravella, who was the only orthopedic surgeon in town at the time, and told him that he needed a new cast, that he had gone to Cedar Point that weekend and walked around all weekend, and his cast was bloody, and that he would need to have it replaced. And Dr. Ravella's office thought it was incredibly strange, but they made the appointment for him to come in and get a new cast. Now, I know that he was staying with Grandma because Grandma was questioned back then. Grandma was questioned in 79. And Grandma was asked about the cast. Grandma had not seen him all weekend. She saw him Friday. She did not see him all weekend. Monday, she went to work and came home, and Dana was there and did not have his cast on. And she, pulled the grandma thing, like, what are you doing without your cast? And, you're not going to heal right and all this stuff. And she was concerned. And he told her, well, Grandma, it was itching too much. I had to take it off. Don't worry, I'm going and get a new one put on. So now we have contradictory stories about the cast. You call the doctor and tell him it's blood soaked, and you tell your grandma that it was itchy. It's like someone else I was talking to, like, if you've got a blood soaked cast, then you're probably dead, because if you bleed through a cast, then you've got some serious issues. But when he went to see Ravella noted that he didn't have the cast on because he had cut it off. But all the work that Ravella had done, the scars, the sutures, the pins, everything was still intact. So there was no reason that he should have been bleeding. That, if there was blood on the cast, it wasn't from him. There wasn't a cast for Ravella to examine, but if he had a bloody cast, Ravella couldn't explain why. And all of this seemed suspicious enough to Ravella that he noted it. Now, Dr. Ravella was questioned a couple times. Ravella didn't know that anyone was missing because the police didn't bother putting out a missing persons report until the 14th. So had Ravella known this on the 5th, the 6th, he could have called the police and been like, hey, this dude was supposed to have a cast on his leg and told me it was bloody and I replaced it, but now there's a missing woman. Maybe you want to talk to him. But still, the police knew about the cast. So I call it the cast of controversy, because you know me, I've got to have a catchy phrase for everything. So we've got the cast of controversy. We've got kidnap witness. We've got bloody van. Now, I know a couple of attorneys, and some of them in former lives were prosecutors, and now they've moved on and make the real money. But they were astounded when I told them. They said that the van and the cast they would have indicted on that, especially back then, because, and the no alibi. But then we can fast forward to.
Well, let me just
Well, I mean,
interject on.
my soul left my body when they told me about the van. Like, I threw my pen and I said, they knew. Oh my God, they knew. Why didn't they do something? They knew. And I mean, the whole room just went silent because they knew that they knew. And like, I can't
Yeah.
explain to you how it feels. Like, you're the greatest mystery that's consumed you your whole life. And somebody's known the answer to it your whole life.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. And then the other question that I would have is, what made him a suspect? What was the evidence that early on?
I just wonder if he was kind of rapey in the past, because I don't think that you start by kidnapping, raping, and murdering someone. I don't think that's your first sex crime. That's my opinion. Like, I know that he was known to the police. They told me that just because he was like a drunken troublemaker. And you had said that he didn't have much of a record up until that point, but he was also relatively young. So who knows? Maybe he was a minor locked up and just got out and decided to start raping and killing, since there was really nothing about him up to that point.
There had to have been something that would cause them to make a connection between Dana Slane and Catherine Conley,
Right.
in order for them to
Question him multiple times.
right, and to search down the van and to go and get statements from Dr. Ravella.
His grandma.
This was all grandma. This was all fairly close to the time that they found your mother's body. And what's even more troubling
That my
about this,
family's traipsing around in front of City Hall and those answers are laying inside there.
yeah, and you also have 2 months later, he gets in that
Guys, the same thing. Those women
situation.
just got lucky and survived.
Yeah,
That's what I thought.
what it was, folks, is this was 2 months after Catherine
Mid-August.
Conley's body is found. Dana Slane, this is according to the arrest report, Dana Slane and another male go to the city parking lot, which was at the corner of Church Street and Prospect Street at the time. And they are hanging out with a couple females, a 20-year-old woman and I believe a 17-year-old girl. And Dana Slane apparently struck, so physically like battered, assaulted the females and gets them in his vehicle.
Well, he
Then
took them out in the county, the country.
right, but he strikes them there at the city parking lot.
Okay, I thought he hit them while they were in the car. I didn't. I mean, who knows? He meant
And
them
then
ill will.
he leaves the city parking lot with them in his vehicle, and he heads east out of town and proceeds down. The arrest report said, or arrest notice said, Cardington Road. So presumably that's Marion Cardington Road, otherwise known as State Route 529. And they must have flagged down a member of the Marion County Sheriff's Department because he got pulled over. So again, I mean, you talk about the same MO. So we have the witness.
So at least a radar. You would think a radar would go off.
And you're already questioning the guy.
Yes.
You had to have been questioning him based on what you're telling me with getting the warrant and tracking down the van and taking statements from Ravel. That means that he was already a suspect in your mother's murder. And then you have this almost exact same modus operandi that happens 2 months later. And
if that had been one woman, there would have been another dead body. She would have been killed if it had just been one woman that night.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I believe
just,
because there were two of them, they were able to fight him off and get help. That's the reason. That's what I believe.
yeah, that's crazy. And then you fast forward within a year,
The stepsister.
yes, and we don't have any now. Let
We
me
can't
make
prove any
that,
of it. That's
yeah,
just
that
conjecture.
is just circumstantial evidence.
How
And
many people are surrounded by two dead, murdered teenage women? How many people do you know that have two of them in their lives? One of them they've been indicted on murdering, and one of them happens to be their stepsister.
right, and check out that article. There's more to that story too, and
Those poor
hopefully,
people. I am so sorry. If they are watching, I am so sorry for you because he should have been stopped before your sister and your daughter and your cousin and your niece, your granddaughter was taken. And I am so sorry that not only my family was failed, but that family was failed also. Her death was completely preventable. Completely preventable.
yeah, I mean, that's just so you definitely have one case of either gross negligence as far as investigating and
But we haven't even
administering.
talked about the letter. Let's get to the gross
Yeah,
negligence.
tell us about this letter, Naomi.
Oh, gross negligence. Okay. The letter. And if you listened to me earlier, I'm going to use the same name. Okay, so I'm going to give the recipient of the letter, I'm going to call him Duke. That was my family dog name when I was growing up.
This
And
is
I'm going to,
an alias, folks. There is
yes,
no Duke
there is no
connection
Duke.
to the
Duke
case.
died when I was like 14.
Yeah,
So
don't be looking at
no, don't look
connections with
Duke up.
Duke.
And the
It's not.
reason why
It's
I'm
a fake
using a
name.
name, yes, it's a fictitious name, and I'm using that because the person that I'm calling Duke, has knowledge of other crimes, I was told, and he is participating with law enforcement, and hopefully Duke can bring some answers to some other families. So even though I would love to have a conversation with Duke, we'll just let him be because they did give me his first name, but they didn't give me his last name. And that's okay. Well, hopefully other people will get some answers from Duke's cooperation. Okay, so Duke was in prison and Dana wrote him this letter. Now, I'm not exactly sure when Dana wrote the letter, but he mailed it to Duke in prison. And in the letter, Dana detailed what he did to my mother. He admits to the murder. He uses my mother's name. He says that the police are onto him in this letter. And Duke received the letter. We know that for certain. And I'll get to that part in a minute. So this letter of confession exists. And he sent it to this guy in prison. Now, I was told on September 18th, because I was like, how in the world did you guys solve this after all these years? And they're like, we have a letter of confession. I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, he sent it to someone in prison when they were in prison back then. And I thought, okay, there's a letter of confession. All right. And this person must have turned it over because, they finally grew a conscience or something, or their friend was dead and they knew he couldn't get in trouble or whatever. So the day that they got the indictment and I went back and they were giving me this evidence, they kept talking about fictitious Duke. Well, Duke, the person is real, the name is fake. They kept talking about Duke and how, okay, Duke did go testify too in front of the grand jury, because not only did he get this letter, Dana Slane also admitted to Duke after Duke got out of prison that he had done this. So not only did he tell him in writing, he also told him verbally. So Duke went over to the grand jury in Morrow County and testified when this indictment was happening. So he did cooperate recently with law enforcement also in this case. So Duke got the letter, and the letter was corroborated when he got out of prison. Here's if you're going to kill anyone, don't write it down and send it to people in prison, because even if it takes 46 years, it'll eventually be found out, I guess. So they kept saying they had this compelling evidence to go talk to Duke, and that Duke was the break in the case. And I'm like, okay, they had the blood evidence and they had everything else, but Duke was the pinnacle of the case, and they had all this compelling evidence. And this is one of those, when I'm doing one of these and, you know, I'm trying to listen and I'm trying to scratch stuff down so I don't forget what's going on, and just talking and people watching me. And, you know, like I said, there was the detective that had been working the case. There was his lieutenant, which had both been very kind to me when I met them the first time. There was a detective that was training, and then there was another guy there to run interference. So I've got this room full of people like staring at me. And like, I understand that detectives need to train, but maybe not when you're getting ready to blow somebody's life apart. That's, you know, I mean, blowing lives apart is part of being a detective, but like, they dropped this murder mystery in my lap and just kind of let it be. But okay, so back to Duke. They had this compelling evidence, and they needed him to break it open. And I'm like, you keep saying you had this compelling evidence. What compelling evidence could you have had? Like, why was he where? They never even questioned him. His name, it never even came up in the investigation. And they told me that. I was like, so what made you go talk to him? Why did you need him? Well, we had the letter. I said, what do you mean you had the letter? He didn't give you the letter? What are you talking about? You had the letter. You had when? How? What are you talking about? He didn't give you the letter? No. I assumed that somehow this guy was in the file somewhere, and just by process of elimination, they were finding people that were still alive. And then when they came across old Dookie Duke, that they went and found him, and he gave them this letter. No, they had the fucking letter and went and talked to Duke, and Duke corroborated everything in the letter. Because when they went to Duke's house and knocked on the door, they're like, we want to talk about the murder of Catherine Conley. And he's like, and they said, we have the letter. And he said something to the effect of, he said, how do you know about the letter? And they said, we have the letter. And he spilled the beans. So
That just, I mean,
yeah,
you have a clear case where this letter comes in,
but no,
and
we don't know where the letter came from. That's the
we
thing.
don't-
Marion
right.
received the letter December 8th, 1983. So I was 3 years old. No, I was 4 years old. No, I was getting ready to turn 4. Shit, I can't even do math tonight. It was December 8th, 1983, and December 13th of 83, they brought him in to question him. So not even a week later, they had him sign a Miranda waiver. So his signature is on the letter and on the Miranda waiver. Now, I was told by the detectives, you know, we aren't handwriting experts, but if you look at them, the average person would say they're the same. So now they've got a signed confession letter with a Miranda thing and a bloody van, the cast, the kidnapped suspect or witness. And I can't, that's, like I said, and I've said, I never thought the knowing would be worse than the not knowing. I never dreamt this. And then that day, when they're all just like sitting around staring at me and, you know, dropping bombs in my life, not even one time did anybody say, you know, honey, are you going to be okay? And I realize there's a room full of men, and I'm not trying to be misogynistic or anything. I just know you guys see things differently than women do. But not once did anybody slide me a card and say, hey, this is victim services if you need to talk to them, or, you know, none of that. So it was like, oh, okay, here's your life. Here's the dead man that we indicted for murdering your mother and ruining your entire life. By the way, we've known about it for 43 years. Please don't say anything about this, and we'll get around to making a press release good luck to you.
Yeah. I mean, again, you have to put it in the historical context of here you have your family protesting. It made front page news in the Marion Star in 1980. There's
And
a
3 of the
picture of
4
your,
answers are right
yeah,
inside the door.
right. So then we have
Remember,
the,
justice is not swift. According to that editorial, justice is not swift.
well, yeah, that was that was their editorial.
Mhm.
But then you have the case with the gross sexual imposition was Slain. You have Lori Ann Robinson, and we know that they were investigating him. Then, like, what the hell happened with this being the
Who did he know?
temperature? Huh?
Who did he know?
Exactly. You cannot look at this and say that it was just negligence or it was incompetence because they brought him in after the letter was sent mysteriously by somebody
6
from the prison,
days.
presumably.
6 days.
So, yeah. So
And they had all
he
the
was,
blood evidence at that point, and they had the kidnapping witness at that point, and they had the questionable cast at that point. At
yeah,
all of that.
and he was obviously a suspect early on. Within the first 2 months of her body being identified, it appears that they brought him in for questioning. That it was so compelling, apparently, that they did research the title history of the van and who he
Which
sold
would
it
not
to
have
get
been
a
as
warrant.
easy to do back then as it is now. I mean, now it's a clickety clack and you know who's got it.
Right. So again, what was going on?
And they got a
We
warrant
already,
for the van. You know, they
yeah.
got a warrant to search it. They sent the shit to BCI.
So there was it's not in my personal opinion, there's no way that it's just a situation of incompetence.
Well, now
Or
it seems like they're really, I want to hear the fact that I only got a blurb on Facebook about a 50-year-old cold case being solved. I mean, we all know Ray Grogan would have had the cameras lined up when on grand jury morning, he'd been like, why don't y'all just wait out here and I'll be out as soon as I get this indictment. And 4, 6, and 10 would have known. The Marion Star would have known. I mean, in fairness, the Marion Star is doing the story, and I spoke with Abby today, and she's working on it. She's a very nice young woman. So she is working on a story. She's doing some of the research and things into the background kind of stuff that you've done, Cody. So she wanted to have it out Monday for my mother's birthday, but
might as well just copy my article.
well, she's actually asked for some comments from law enforcement, which I would encourage all members of the media. And I already asked Jason told Jason he might be interested in doing. Let's see what they have to say. We've got the county crackpot out making all these allegations now, and she can prove it with indictments and such. So let's see what their spin is on it. Let's see if they turn on each other and see if Marion and Morrow go to battle of blaming, who dropped the ball here. But clearly, there's enough blame to go around, regardless of what anybody knew and when, because there's been a letter since 1983.
It requires an understanding of the situation from 50 years ago. And we're going to be digging deep into that, or at least providing the context and the framework of what was going on. Because if you understand that, I think that it's easier to understand how something like this was allowed to occur, because it wasn't just, oh, got misplaced,
And I know it's going to be interesting to see the pissing battle that happens because of this, but I know based on what my family told me about Shirley Murphy and my life because, like I said, she kept in contact even after she retired. I know that if she knew about this letter, that man would have been in prison because my mother's death haunted her, and there's no chance that she would have buried evidence to keep that man out of prison.
I agree. And from the sources, the contemporary sources, living sources that I have had conversations with, that was the exact same opinion that they had of Detective Murphy. So, and that's the thing. You have to realize that there are good members of law enforcement.
Oh, yes. Yes, I
and there
agree.
are bad members of law enforcement, just like there are good people and bad people. Just because you have a uniform and you wear a badge doesn't mean that you are absolved of any wrongdoing moving forward in your career. Unfortunately, that's not the case. We don't live in a fairy tale world. So you have to be willing to accept that, hey, something like this could have been deliberately covered up for whatever reason. Maybe not. Maybe it was,
even if it wasn't deliberate, let's just say that it was accidental. Okay, let's just for shits and giggles pretend that this was accidental. Then it was accidental for 43 years that nobody got inside that box.
yes, and
I mean, even if it was
not
just
in the context of your family and what you're saying with them repeatedly following up. You have two jurisdictions that are working on the case. You have the DNA. No, I don't accept that. I do not accept it as just a nobody doing their job. So just incompetency for 43 years or
right.
46 years. I don't accept it.
Even if we want to take all the conspiracy out of it whatsoever, just the fact that nobody did their job for 43 years is disgusting.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, right. I get what you're saying. Like,
both sides. I don't believe that. I believe there's something intentional there, just because. How do you have that much evidence and overlook it? Seriously, I mean, how? I mean, the bloody van would have been enough these days to put him in jail. I mean, we would have had DNA probably, but it would have been enough now to at least arrest him. He didn't even get arrested. Never even arrested. So was he a snitch? I don't. There's something there that
something very, very big.
That's more than a screw up.
Yes, and
even so let's say
more than enough
in the 80s
documentation of
why did anybody in the 90s, what do they do with cold cases besides shuffle boxes around? What do they do with them? Because I can think of a couple more right now. And are those answers laying in a box too? You think Marion City Police Department's going on a purge of cold cases right now to see what else they can solve? And oh my God, how pissed do you think they are that this happened to be me, that this happened to? They've got to be like, damn it, why did it have to be her? Oh, damn it.
Right. Well, it's just an absolutely crazy.
It's a nightmare.
It is. It's a nightmare. Just everything about it. It makes you just me. I mean, somebody that I've been working on this, researching on your behalf, trying to do what I can. And that's the thing too. That's how it started. It's like you told me, like, hey, my mom was murdered. I had no clue.
Well, don't forget about Tim Lamb and his Facebook.
That was before. But
yes.
my involvement was before anything that you posted.
Strangely,
about Tim Lamb or that he posted.
You and I had talked about it just a couple weeks before.
Exactly.
Tim Lamb made that post.
And I started my research and my conversations with my network and stuff. And then voila, this post comes up, which is like strange. We're not, and let me say this, we're not saying that anybody is implicated or whatever.
No, we're speaking facts of what happened. Factual.
Yeah, that was posted and it was just a strange coincidence. And then, you can
It was
finish.
posted by a man named Tim Lamb, who happens to be friends with Dana Slane. And on one of his Facebook page, it says, "Rip Dana," and he tagged Dana, "Rip Dana, my good friend of 49 years, or my best friend of 49 years," or something like that. So it was posted by a man named Tim Lamb that lives over in Morrow County, and it was posted on a Morrow County page. And basically, it was just an article about my mother's dead body being found. There was no context. I think you saw it, Cody. There was no context. There was no, "Has anyone found justice for Catherine?" Or, "Let's not forget about this case, that this family still needs help." There was no context, just dead body found. And people in the audience or in the comment section are going crazy. "Oh, this is horrible. When did this happen? Oh my God, why didn't I hear about this?" You didn't hear about this because it happened 50 years ago. It happened before you were born. And people were freaking out thinking there's some murderer loose now in Mount Gilead. And I'm like, listen, people, this did not just happen. And of course, I start taking all this heat, which I don't care. I'm used to internet heat. But I sent the guy a message and I was like, why would you do this? Like it was less than 10 days before the disappearance, the anniversary of her disappearance. I was like, why would you do this? I said, "Are you the sick fuck that killed my mother?" I said, "Because I can't imagine why anybody else would do this." And he blocked me, but the comment section went on for a while. And apparently he got bullied into the point he took the thing down or whatever. I don't know. But I know they were friends. And I know that Tim Lamb is the son of Cal Lamb, who owned Dino's and Trotter's. And if you're from Marion, there's a lot of rumors swirling around him about illegal activity. Now, obviously, that's all just allegation, but I think everybody knows from Marion, the rumors, the rumor mill. But yeah, I had Tim Lamb not posted that on Facebook. And I know there were some conversations that were had on my behalf by other people. But basically, I just posted that on Facebook and was like, "Y'all, I think I might have found my killer or my mom's killer or somebody that knows who my mom's killer is." And from there, the internet did its thing. And they bombarded Hinton's office and Wick's office with messages and emails and all that other fun stuff you can harass public officials with legally. And Wick's office was the one that picked it up. It was Wick. Hinton didn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, and there's still enough people that are still alive that experienced that era, that went to the city parking lot, that knew your mother, that knew Dana Slane, that knew the seedier side of law enforcement or the city of Marion. um, and if you have information that can be useful in helping to solve a
Put
murder,
this piece of the mystery together, please.
yeah, you have to come forward. I That's the thing. I think that we all watch Discovery ID and we watch these types of things, but we're disconnected from them to a large degree.
Yeah,
But
but those are stories happen to real people. Those are real
they
human beings.
happen to real people,
Yes.
and this is our community. And it's just a horrible situation for Naomi, her family, uh, Dana Slane. They had no clue that their dad was, like this, or alleged to be, the murderer and everything. And
Imagine finding out on the internet that your dead father has been indicted for murder. I mean, I can't imagine that horror.
no, I mean,
That's awful that they didn't at least inform those people. I
right.
mean, I
You
don't
got
care two shits about him, but it's awful that they were done that way.
you got two. Yeah, they had no clue. And you got two families plus collateral relationships spiraling out that have just been destroyed by this act. And then if you are out there and you have information that you've been sitting on for 46 years, whether you were a member of the public, private citizen, or you were a member of law enforcement, do the right thing. Send us a message, go to the Marion Star,
I was gonna
go
say,
to
don't go to the
Naomi.
police department because
Yeah, I probably would at this point. I mean, I'm not saying that there would be any
they hate me.
shenanigans,
So they
but
wouldn't do anything to help me. I think now they're gonna have to give a statement because they don't have a choice. But they wouldn't piss on me if I was on fire. So I don't think that would be the best route to go.
yeah, I mean, but I don't know, and that's just I think the shocking thing to me is we think about these situations of likely corruption, whatnot, as fantasies, as fiction, stuff that we watch on television. But when you see
You watch
it,
that kind of stuff on TV. You just don't expect it to be your real life or anything
right,
in real life.
right. I mean, it's crazy, and I think that if you also if you know something, you don't do anything, then you're morally culpable.
I agree.
I don't know how anybody could live themselves knowing something that was done, like this injustice, and not say anything all your life, like because they may come after me or whatever the reason.
Apparently, Duke is a loyal fellow, much like my dog was when I was growing up, and he's very much a ride or die. And he people, I guess, other people had confessed crimes to him that he's was planning on taking to the grave with him. So that's kind of what I guess Morrow County is looking into. Now, who knows if those people will ever get an announcement, if I don't know. I just can't believe it. Just feels like I've always lived with knowing that my mother was murdered, but now it's like I'm living with the horror of knowing that my family was destroyed for no reason. For no reason. It didn't have to be this way. It did not have to be this way. And it is.
No, it absolutely didn't. And I don't know why certain things happen to certain people, certain families, whether or not it's in a grander scheme. I mean, I will say that Naomi is probably one of the most fearless, tenacious, uh, honest people as far as convictions go, that I have ever met. And you don't want to get on her bad side, let's put it that way. If you're out there doing something shady or whatnot, by God, you
Does it make
better.
more sense now, though? I
Oh
mean,
no, it totally makes sense. But that's what I mean. It forged you by fire, and as as much as as much as it was difficult to go through that, and I'm not saying that it is justified or anything like that, but it
don't you
made you.
try everything is God's will and everything happens for a reason and the Lord won't put more on you than you can bear. I don't want to hear that shit. Because I think he's put enough on me for a lifetime to last a couple of people. So you save your inspirational quotes there, Corey.
No, look, I'm saying that it made you tough. And if you
Oh,
said that to that other podcaster, then don't jump on me for saying the same thing. It made you tough, right?
you're actually my friend, though, right?
I
The other
am.
guy doesn't have friends.
Right. But and I do want to encourage people. I think that there is more than enough questions about the connection with Lorianne Robinson. I think that should probably be looked into again with a fresh set of eyes,
Yes.
and to see if there's anything that was missed back then on that case, to try to help the surviving members of the
Yes.
Robinson family. And I agree. I think that I don't know exactly how many cold cases exist in Marion County and Morrow County, but it should be something with uh, modern technology that we have today that hopefully these are getting reviewed honestly, with due
Well,
diligence,
Dave
on a somewhat
Dave
regular
Yost
basis.
Dave Yost did some kind of, I'd have to read again. Him and DeWine did something that was supposed to prioritize cold cases and actually set up money and something like that. So that was another thing that if I had it to do over again, the guy that was in the room telling me I should have been grateful to him, and I would have told him, go find some grant money or something for this shit and get off my back. But you can't think of everything when your soul won't stay in your body. But yeah, there's most of all what I want out of this, other than my mother's story being told, is that this to never happen to another family. Look at those cold cases, care about people. I mean, those boxes that you walk past for the past 30 years or you've known were buried in the basement, every single one of them, there's a human being attached to. And there's a family that loved them and a family that cared about them and a family that needed them. And they're more than just those papers inside that box. So get up, dust them off, and go throw them. Get a grant. Get your grant writer on it who's done so much, brought so much money to the city. Get you a grant and get somebody. Morrow County did it. If Morrow County can afford it, Marion City can afford it. Get somebody down there and get them elbow deep in those boxes and help some families.
Yep, 100%. Well, Naomi, we're going to continue down this path of investigation, not only in your mom's case, as there will undoubtedly be further developments. I mean, that's the only bad thing, like you have repeatedly said to me, there isn't closure. There's just
no. I closed one chapter and I opened another.
Yeah. So we're there for you.
Appreciate
and
it.
We're
I
there.
appreciate everybody that's been kind to me, everybody that's sent me a message, everybody, Cody, all the stuff that you've done to put things together, Jason, for having me tonight. But for everybody that's sent encouraging word or text or whatever, it's meant a lot. I appreciate it. But yeah, like Cody said, I'm tough. I'm too mean to go down like this. I'll get through it. I'll survive. Hey, and I'm on the your mom's cold case was solved 43 years ago, but they're just now telling you about it diet, and I've lost like 10 pounds. So, there's that.
Hey, I'll give you some extra LBs you can lose for me.
No, thank you.
Oh, but yeah, it's all about standing up for truth and justice, doing what's right. That's what life should be about. And this was a huge injustice. This was a huge wrong that was allowed to persist for 46 years.
And ruined a lot of lives. Ruined a
lot of lives. And yeah, immeasurable grief and sadness. So, you have to stand up, you have to speak out. And there's no better example of that personified than Naomi Craig. So Naomi, we greatly appreciate you sharing this story with our audience here on the Watchman's Report. We'll probably have you back on to discuss this topic again. I mean, again, it's not going away.
I imagine Morrow and Marion are about to duke it out. So we'll find out, I suppose.
Yeah. And like I said, we're gonna stay with it. We're going to expand on it. And so until
next some answers for everyone, not not just my family. Let's do it for everyone.
Right. Let's do it for all of them. Mm-hmm. So until next time, for Naomi Craig, Jason Foreman, I'm Cody Higley, and remember, folks,
I'm going to bed. Good night, guys.
A watchman always is vigilant. Have a good night.
Good night, guys.